2, 1. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to OCVarsity.com for a Gridiron Show special. We're going to talk about the top 10. Steve Fryer here with Dan Albano and Carlos Arias. Okay, here's what's going on. I'm confused about who's number 1. I'm confused who's next to me. And here's why we're confused, because Mission Viejo have been number 2 all year behind Santa Margarita, number 2 all year for 7 weeks. And what happens last week? Mater Dei, which we had at number 3, beat Santa Margarita. So what do? Do you bump Mission Viejo from number 2 to number 1? Or because Mater Dei, just down there at number 3, they beat the number 1 team. So do they leapfrog Mission Viejo because they beat the number 1 team? Carlos, I know you like to say to be the champ, you got to beat the champ and all that sort of thing. So I imagine, Carlos, with that mindset of yours, to be number 1, you got to beat number 1. You had to voted for Mater Dei as number 1.
I can't believe I went against my rule of Ric Flair. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And, you know, Mater Dei beat the man. But I'm going with Mission Viejo. I really like this team. They got incredible offense. Their defense is spectacular. It's just too much. I think they have to be number 1.
Yeah, I went with Mission Viejo too, because I think if they played Mater Dei, they'd probably beat them, and that's kind of the thing that I always look at. I think their offensive skills, great playmakers, you know, with Sushek and Monster and all these great guys. Their defense is nails as well. Max Redfield, you know, gosh, is there a better football player in the county? Maybe not.
Maybe so, Thomas Duarte.
Yeah, maybe Tommy Duarte looked pretty good. Yeah, we saw that last week. He had another great game against Margarita. But, Dan, so who did you vote for number 1 this week? Did you go with Mission or did you go with Mater Dei?
You know, Coach Bob Johnson's swirling around these practice parts right now. But, you know, I picked Mater Dei. Yeah. And I'm kind of stunned that, you know, Mission's number 1. I mean, I haven't been voting them even number 2. My number 2 this week was Edison. I could see Mission Viejo becoming number 1 if they were to impress in the rest of the South Coast League season, impress against Tesoro and El Toro, but I just think Mater Dei's earned it. I like their resume more. Their strength of schedule now I think is superior. You know, the Mater Dei goes on the road at Narbonne, loses 1 point to a state powerhouse. They beat a real good Edison team that's got a good defense. You know, obviously they played well against Santa Margarita. You know, and I think when it comes to Mission Viejo, some of my friends, emailing friends from Mission Viejo and on Twitter from Mission Viejo, they keep telling me, hey, you know, Santiago Corona, those Sharks, they're pretty good. And this Mission Hills team down in San Diego, they're pretty good. You know, and what I want to see is you know, powerhouse, you know, non-league games from Mission Viejo. And they're getting to that schedule now, so we're going to find out. And I know they're plenty talented, but right now I wouldn't rank them number 1. I don't think they've earned it quite yet, but they're going to have their opportunities and give us voters some more to think about. But I just think Mater Dei, you know, and I of course I like Edison's strength of schedule too. And I think you look at strength of schedule for Mission Viejo against these other state powerhouses, it's probably the lowest. So, you know, but you know, Mission Viejo, and then maybe they spoiled us over the years. They've always played such a great non-league schedule. In my opinion, this isn't one of theirs. You know, they've played De La Salle and Long Beach Poly and, you know, way back, you know, Mater Dei. So,
when did you become a strength of schedule guy?
You know, I mean, I'm always a strength of schedule guy. I just think, but and it depends on how you do. I didn't like strength of schedule for Servite when they were hanging around in the top 10 when they're not. They have a strength of schedule, but they don't do anything. They lose game after game. It's not like they have, you know, the production that Mater Dei had. So that's the difference for me.
All right, very good. You know, you mentioned the Santiago Corona Sharks, and when you said the word shark, I was thinking about, you talk about Bob Johnson kind of circling around here, you know, looking at us and things like that. And, you know, something we talked to Coach Johnson about earlier today before we got on here was about transfers. You know, they've had a couple good ones come in here. And
I mean, you can watch a play where it's the Orange Lutheran transfer throwing to the Santa Margarita transfer being blocked by the Santa Margarita transfer.
And that's what bothers Coach Johnson. We always refer to these guys as Alex Suchez, the transfer from Santa Margarita, Ian Freeber, the transfer from Orange Lutheran. At what point do we no longer, you know, have to refer to these guys as a transfer from this school, that school? Coach Johnson, what do you think about that?
I think if you can find a school that doesn't have transfers coming in this day and age, I'll bet some big money that there isn't one. So we seem to get the ink. In fact, we can't get an article written without the guy being a transfer. I don't know when that ends, you know, but certainly it should end after maybe saying so-and-so transferred to a school, in my opinion, because everybody else gets as many as we get or more. So I guess it's just the time of the time of the times, and certainly have to live here to transfer here. Yeah. You can't move around. So you have to move in and reside in our district. So enough said on that, but we enjoy anybody that's here, and hopefully the kids having a good time, and we're proud of those guys. So I hope we just keep playing the way we're playing.
Well, you know, Coach Johnson, I think that's a real good point about these young people, about, you know, when do we just identify them as Mission Viejo guys? You know, is it week 4 or week 5? I mean, I don't know when it happens, but, you know, my sort of take on this, Dan, is that if we don't write that this kid transferred from Orange Lutheran or Santa Margarita or from Jones High or whatever, you know, I think people read it and go, hey, isn't this the guy who, you know, and we're supposed to answer readers' questions, sort of anticipate them. I know if I was a dad and I kept, you know, hearing guys refer to as he came from this school and that school, stuff like that, I'd probably get tired of it too. But I think to our readership, we kind of owe them some background, some explanation of exactly what's going on. Totally understand, totally get Coach Johnson's angle, and I hope that other people can understand ours. What do you think?
Well, you know, I can understand where Coach is coming from, and
Sure.
where, you know, we've talked to lots of parents of transfers and a lot of coaches that have lost players. And coaches that have gained players, and, you know, the reality about transfers is they are impactful. They impact programs that they leave. They impact programs they go to, and we're talking about really good players. And you know, I don't think we do it to ruffle any feathers. We're just reporting what's happening, trying to keep track of the players. It's challenging for sports writers, and it's challenging for you know, fans to follow it too. So I don't think we, you know, do it to you know, beat a dead horse.
Yeah.
You know, I think we you know, it's a fact, and I think it's certainly in play. You know, it could be a season or 2 seasons, or, you know, and you know, for some time.
Yeah, but, you know, but I totally get what Coach is saying about, you know, eventually, can we just refer to these guys as he's Joe Smith from Jones High? I totally get where he's coming from.
Yeah, you know, and these players are following the rules. They got these new transfer rules in there. And so these kind of transfers are going to happen all over the place. I'm anticipating tons in basketball. So, you know, this is just part of the reality of us trying to report and them, you know, dealing with their situations.
And Mission has gotten a lot of transfers over the years, and they probably will continue to do so. They're an attractive program. They attract players. But I also can see that Mission Viejo doesn't like the teams that get a lot of transfers, don't like the scrutiny that it brings. They don't like the label. But that's just... you know, and that's them trying to spin it however they want to. But that's, you know, that's the reality is how people are talking about it. And, you know, when kids leave high-profile programs and they're really good players, you know, sorry, Coach, people are going to talk about it.
You know, young people do change their minds. And, you know, Max Redfield, he might be changing his. He committed to USC, but he just got back from a visit to Notre Dame. How'd that visit go, Max Redfield?
Well, I had a great weekend at Notre Dame, as you heard, and it's just a lot to think about, so it's going to be a tough decision. Both programs have really great education and athletics as well, so it's going to be a tough choice.
Okay, thanks Max Redfield. Thanks Bob Johnson, and thank all the Diablos for hosting us here for the OC Varsity Gridiron Show at OCVarsity.com, where we've got you covered.